whatever it is in your business that are the key fundamental elements of your operation. Have you made it seamless? Have you made it easy? Have you made it fun? And if you do those things, people want to keep doing business with you.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. I got to see him speak live and in person in Las Vegas. He's an entrepreneur. He's a speaker. He's the author of Never Lose a Customer Again. Joey Coleman, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Kirby, it is an absolute delight to be here. I love getting the chance to meet in person in Vegas, and I'm thrilled to spend some time with you on the show today. This will be great.
It'll be great. I agree. So I kind of want to jump right in. I mean, you spoke at SKUCon, which is an event for the common SKU community in Las Vegas before our big conference, and it was awesome. And I know I told you that there. I told you that right before we started recording. I really enjoyed it. Got a ton of notes from it. But you talked about the idea that businesses focus a ton of effort on gaining new customers. And you were totally speaking my language there, but we don't always do a great job of keeping them, right? And so why, I guess from a just philosophical perspective, why do you think that is? We focus so much on new customers, but not so much on keeping them.
Well, I think there's a biological reason, and I think there's an operational reason. So let's look at both. The biological reason. As human beings, we are biologically predisposed to hunt, to gather, to go out and seek new things, new experiences, new looks, new feels. So it's exciting to us. We get a dopamine hit. We feel interested. We feel intrigued. Ooh, that's shiny. That's unique. It's caught my attention. We have to push against, in many ways, those biological imperatives to say, no, let's settle down. Let's focus. Let's spend less time moving around and looking at all the shiny objects and focus on one singular object right in front of us. We see this in dating, right? A lot of people enjoy dating more than marriage. Why? Not because marriage is bad. I'm happily married for, coming up on 14 years. It's that they like the intrigue, the uniqueness, the chase, right? More than the catch. And so I think we've got that biological challenge. But then I also think we have an operational structural challenge. Most organizations, and we've done the research on this, most CEOs came up through marketing or sales.
That makes sense.
So is it any wonder that when the leader of the company is all about acquisition, get more, spread the word, do, as opposed to operations, let's keep the people, customer service, customer support, customer retention, let's continue to serve the customers. When the leadership team kind of came from that path of it's all about going and getting new people, instead of keeping the people we already have, we've got two forces that we're working against, our biology and the structures within our operation.
I think that's really, really interesting, especially from the leadership perspective. So I guess, by the way, again, I agree, right? So if we do need to do a better job of maintaining those relationships and maintaining and growing the customers we already have, how do we do it? How do we do a better job of growing and improving our relationships with our current customer base?
Well, again, I think there's a philosophical idea of how do we do it, and then there's the tactical, practical, how do we apply it? I think the philosophical, we've already started into it for everybody listening and watching. I mean, even just being aware of the fact that we're probably not paying as much attention to what happens after the sale as we're paying attention what happens before the sale can be enough of a mindset shift to get us moving down the right path. The research shows that somewhere between 20 and 70% of new customers will stop doing business with you before the 100-day anniversary. 20 to 70%. These numbers are absolutely staggering. And once businesses realize that if they can keep those people, they increase revenues, they increase profits, they increase retention, they can reduce their marketing spend, they can reduce their sales efforts, it suddenly becomes worth paying attention to. And then to answer on the practical side, well, what do we do, Joey? Well, we look at every step of the customer journey and critically analyze, are we doing everything we can at this part in the journey to deliver a remarkable experience? The kind of experience that will not only propel them to the next step in the journey, and I believe there are 8 phases to that customer journey, but more importantly, will keep them coming back for more. We'll keep them engaged. We'll keep them, paying attention to us and interacting with us. And so lots of times I think businesses are focused on, well, how do I get them to the point where they write a review? I understand you want them to write a review. I understand you want them to make a referral. You want them to come back and do another order or another project with you. I get it. But they're not going to get to that point unless we've taken them through the subsequent steps that happen before that of delivering on our promise, giving them a great experience, consistently making sure we're checking in on the things that they need, trying to critically and carefully analyze every aspect of our interaction to say, what could we do to make this better? Could we make our invoices easier to pay, our contracts easier to sign, our samples easier to approve, right? Our artwork easier to submit, whatever it is in your business that are the key fundamental elements of your operation. Have you made it seamless? Have you made it easy? Have you made it fun? And if you do those things, people want to keep doing business with you.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, hey, we want to get people to write a review, but I think it's funny. I don't know that we always do.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like, we want to pick and choose who writes reviews. And I think that it points to your point that, hey, we want to make sure that every single person has a great experience. And then we want everybody to write a review. Right?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It does. But here's the interesting thing I'll say about reviews. And I understand the desire to chase the 5-star review, the 10 out of 10. I get it. And yet, I ask you to give yourself a little grace, business owners, business leaders, when you get a 2-star review or a 3-star or a 1-star or anything other than a 5-star.
Right.
I want you to do 2 things. Number 1, recognize that the research actually shows that if you have 100 reviews and they're all 5 stars, you will make fewer sales than if you have 100 reviews and 80% are 5 stars, another 15% are 4 stars, and then you have the random straggler of a 1, 2, or 3-star. People don't trust a stack of perfect reviews. So that's why one of the things on my website, if you go and look at the reviews, I have some 1-star reviews on my website. And people are like, when I first started putting these on, the web development team was like, Joey, this is ridiculous. You should not be putting 1-star reviews. I'm like, no, not everybody's going to resonate with my message. And I want people that are going to book me to be a speaker to know the great majority of your people will love this. There will be a handful that don't. Why?
Yeah.
Because I see them. I'm looking right at them.
Yeah.
I know that they're part of the problem, not part of the solution. And I will not hesitate to call out their mindset or their behavior that is contributing to the challenges they're facing in their life. Some people don't like that. It's also the case that sometimes you're going to make mistakes. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's how you correct them. The research also shows that if somebody makes a mistake and we fix it, they are more likely to not only write a review, but come back and do business with us again than if the mistake was to never have happened.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to go out and figure out ways to make mistakes in your organization. I've had clients ask me, so Joey, should we build in things that break our experience? I was like, well, you can. It's a creative concept. I love the curiosity around that question or that decision. But give yourself a little bit of grace that it's not always going to be a 5-star review, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be striving to always make it a 5-star review.
Yeah, it reminds me of the book Hug Your Haters. I think it's
Jay Baer.
Yeah.
Great friend, great book. If you are dealing with reviews, that is the book you want to read. It is the seminal work on how do you deal with negative reviews.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so, I think when you get those customers and get them into it, it's like you need to implement a process of transitioning people from, okay, they bought it, or they're a prospect, then they bought, to then advocates. So if we're not doing that now, and let's face it, most organizations or many organizations are not, how do we get started by creating that process?
I think a great way to get started is to actually map your current customer journey. That exercise alone of sitting down and saying, okay, how does someone first hear about us? When they do hear about us, how do they reach out? Do they fill out a form on our website? Do they call a number? Do they stop by our office? What do they do? When they do reach out, what do we do next? What is the sales process like? What are those interactions and those conversations like? When they decide, yes, we want to buy, what are our contracts look like? What do our invoices look like? What are kind of the the machinations and the specific tools of our trade that we're moving them from that prospect to being a customer. And then once they become a customer, what are we doing to stay remarkable? We finished the chase. We caught them.
Yeah.
Make sure you're still chasing. To use an analogy from dating, you brought flowers, you left little love notes, you sent unexpected texts, you did, little special messages, things like that. But then once you got into the relationship, did you quit doing those things? Or did you keep doing them? And so how do we continue to let them know that we're thrilled to be serving them, we're thrilled to be in relationship with them, and we're thrilled that they chose us and that they trust us, and then you build on it. I think, Kirby, sitting down and just doing the mapping exercise, for most of my consulting clients, that's enough for us to immediately see the gaping holes in the business. The last thing I'll say on this is, if you have been in operation for any appreciable amount of time, and I'm going to define that time as more than 3 or 4 years, there are chances that you, as the leader or the founder or CEO, that there are things that you think are happening because they happened back in the day that just aren't happening anymore.
Yes.
It's not a criticism of anyone, but it wasn't systematized. It wasn't operationalized. And the people that were asked to carry on those specific tasks were never told why it matters. Mm-hmm. Why do we send the contract when we send it? Why do we send the approvals when we send them? Why do we ask for a signature instead of a checkbox? Why do we ask for verbal confirmation when we're in an exit row on an interview or on an airplane instead of a head nod, right? There are reasons for these things, but you need to make sure everybody on the team understands the reasoning and the rationale, because then they'll actually be able to deliver on the steps in our process and the systems in our operation.
Yeah, I think one of the things that struck me in your talk, and it just now when you were talking about it, so we created for our company our proven process, right? Mm-hmm. And so, we're going to meet with people and come up with ideas and present solutions and then implement, but our final piece was follow up and then repeat, right? There's just a circle. Mm-hmm. And to your point about mapping it out, and so when I showed this to the team, I was like, okay, so this is what I believe our proven process is. And everyone's like, yeah. I'm like, so how do we do on follow-up? A whole lot of no
cue tumbleweed, right? It's like, Kirby, why did you ask that question?
But it was cool, though, because all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we know we should be doing it. So how do we systematize it so that we can do it better? And so I think just mapping it out, to your point, really does highlight, like you said, the gaping holes.
It really does. And I would posit, if I may, one of the things that we want to also think about is the language that we use to describe our process. So follow-up is great language for your team. Hey, we want you to follow up on what we're doing. The question might be, though, is that great language for your customer or your client? Do we want to be followed up with? Well, not really, because usually that's code word for upsold on the next project. Now, we all know we're in business. We know that that's what we're trying to do. But instead, what if instead of follow-up, it was project success review? And they're like, oh, what is that? Well, for the project success review, we come back to you a month later and we go through our proven 8-point checklist, 13-point checklist, whatever it may be, to go through each aspect of the project, figure out what we could have done better in the future, what you liked, what you didn't like, etc. Now we're learning not only for the rest of our business operation, but we are letting that customer know that we are committed to a Kaizen approach to business. That is the Japanese word for constant improvement. We're always looking to make the next project you do with us better than the last project you did with this. And the way we do this is a formalized process where you can give us feedback. By the way, we're also going to give you feedback in this part.
Love that.
We ended up having to rush ship your product. Why? Because when we sent you the proof for approval and we had anticipated and calculated a 48-hour return time, it took you 7 days. In the future, if you want to avoid the rush charges, let's either turn the approval faster or build in more time before you need the product. I don't care which it is, but it's also a beautiful opportunity to give feedback to the client on how they can enhance their system and operations. This is when you shift from being a vendor that provides promotional products or widgets or whatever you do to being a trusted advisor whose interest in growing their business is aligned with your interest of growing yours.
Man, that's good. I like that a lot. Naming things really does matter. And so, okay, I got one more question for you, and I'm really curious about this one because I did a little research. You know, obviously, I had some questions just from the interview, but I went to your blog and I went to your website and all that stuff, and I was so fascinated. I was looking through different topics, and I saw a blog on secondary customers. This it just caught my eye. So that's really interesting because I think most of us are chasing the decision maker, right?
Yes.
We want to get the person who can make the decision. So can you talk a little bit about secondary customers and what that means and why does it matter?
Let me tell you about one of my favorite examples of somebody paying attention to the secondary customer.
Okay.
I have the pleasure of giving keynote speeches around the world, and I was in Banff, Canada, speaking at the Fairmont Hotel. I was going to be speaking for Travel Alberta, which is all the different tour operators in the province of Alberta, and what they did, they get everybody together annually to talk about how can they make the tourist experience better in Alberta. So we come to the hotel. I'm traveling with my wife and my 2 young boys. It is 11 o'clock at night. We have been traveling all day. We've all been there, right? Where you're just beat. You're tired. The kids are tired. They're up past their bedtime. My wife is tired. I'm tired. And all I'm trying to do is check into this hotel, get my room card, get up to my room and get everybody in bed. That's literally all I'm trying to do. And I'm at the front desk and I give them my name and my ID and my credit card and we're getting checked in. And the woman behind the counter says, would it be okay if we gave your children a special little welcome to the Fairmont? It's 11 o'clock. My wife is sitting with the kids like back in the waiting area. So we're not going to, spill in the energy into the lovely staff that's working the night shift. And I said, oh, that'd be lovely. One of her colleagues wheels out a wagon filled with stuffed animals, stuffed moose, stuffed wolf, all of these local animals wearing little Fairmont t-shirts. And all the animals have a crown on, a golden crown, because this Fairmont Hotel is known as the Castle in the Rockies. It's one of their signature locations. You would have thought they were handing out candy bars. My boys were ecstatic. 2 stuffed animals, brand new. They get to pick whichever one they want. They each pick the animal they want. While all this is happening with my wife, they're doing the paperwork with me. They're checking me and they're getting it done. And so by the time I'm done, I'm standing next to them, waiting for them to be done picking their stuffed animal.
That's
the
awesome.
reason this is important for every business, some of you may be saying, Joey, what am I going to do with my customers' kids? This doesn't make sense. No. Apply it to your business. Who are the secondary customers? In the promotional product space, it's the people who are going to be receiving the promotional product at the trade show or at the event. It might be the salespeople who are handing out the promotional product or the booth staff. It might be not only the head of marketing, but it might be someone on the graphic design team that's going to be working to get you the proper EPS file of the logo or whatever it may be. I may be dating myself with some of these references, but I think some of the old school folks are tracking with me.
We got you.
Long story short here, who are all the other people in the organization that you're serving? Because here's what I know to be true, Kirby. Lots of people pay attention to the decision maker. The decision maker gets lots of gifts, lots of special little messages, a lot of perks. You know who they don't pay attention to? The decision maker's personal assistant.
Yeah.
The decision maker's second in command. The decision maker's counterpart in the other department that is just as vested in this decision, but doesn't have the signatory buying power in the budget.
Yeah.
These are the people you want to be serving. And if you serve someone in their home or in that capacity, yes, the spouse, the children, the parents, the roommates, the other people, there's always a secondary customer. And if you can figure out how to make that secondary customer love you, that's a special path towards long-term retention.
Dude, that is an amazing way to finish this, Joey. Thank you so much. Real quickly, before I let you go, where can they find you? Where can they find your books? Where can they find you to speak? Where can they find you?
Love it, Kirby. So my 2 books are called Never Lose a Customer Again, which is all about customer experience, and Never Lose an Employee Again, which is all about employee experience. Both are available in whatever way you like to consume books. If you like hardcovers, we've got a hardcover edition. If you like ebooks on your e-reader, we've got you well taken care of. And if you've liked the sound of my voice in our conversation, we've got an audiobook that I narrate. So I will read the book to you. The book's available wherever you like to get books. The other place to find me is on my website, joeycoleman.com. That's Joey, like a baby kangaroo or a 5-year-old, Coleman, Coleman, like the camping equipment, but no relation, joeycoleman.com. There, as you mentioned, you'll find blog articles, you'll find free downloads, you'll find more information about my keynotes, about my consulting, and about the various services I offer. And to everyone listening, if there's anything I can do to support your efforts to create remarkable experiences, whether that's for your customers or your employees, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to serve.
Joey, thank you so much. And to your point, I walked up to Joey. We both were at that event. We both actually had the chance to speak, and he immediately said yes and was so gracious. So thank you, man. We'll have to do it again sometime, okay?
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for the conversation, Kirby, and keep creating remarkable experiences in the world. I know that's something you do all the time, and I was honored to be a guest on the show.